Women-led tech companies generate 35% higher revenue than their male counterparts. However, the task of getting there is not an easy path. Today, we'll discuss with a nurse turned doctor of nurse practitioner and an entrepreneur on how she's able to go through the winding road of getting resources to gain this right support and tap into the right network to continue growing her company in the healthcare space. Welcome to Provider's Edge, the podcast that helps healthcare entrepreneurs and innovators break down barriers and control their business, life, and future with valuable action steps. With me, your host, Sabrina Runbeck, a recovered clinician and a business deal catalyst. Let's rewrite the rules and create a positive social impact while increasing your profitability. At any stage of innovation, there's always 10,000 things we feel like we need to do, because no matter what, you have a brilliant idea. And behind the brilliant idea are gifted founders, co-founders, executive, and everybody else within your company to help you get there. However, we also know the challenges of women in technology that only receive less than 3% funding. Yet, some research have shown that technology companies led by women actually have 32% higher revenue than their male counterparts. So what do we have to do to actually get out there to create the success story that we believe we can truly generate? Today, we have Susan Davis with us today. She is a nurse practitioner, been in the healthcare space for many, many years, and found her true passion and the need to showcase and teach other people about critical care, and especially these specific life-saving scenarios. And so she created her cold prep company. I'll let Susan introduce herself a bit. How did you get to this point to say, you know what, I have to be the person to take that leap, take that step, and be able to show people what most people are missing?
So, it's been a really long journey, but it's a great question. I have my doctorate in nursing, and I have a background in critical care. So I worked in trauma and emergency. I did some flight. I also have my paramedic license. So working with critical care patients was what I did when I was at the bedside. Something that I discovered back then was the difference in care that our patients received in the inpatient environment or outpatient environment or specialty areas of healthcare where it's a low frequency, high risk event, having a cardiac or a respiratory event, or even an anaphylaxis. There's a million things that could go wrong. And the level of preparedness in those areas was not where I think that they could be or should be. So, and it was fairly glaring to me back then, over a decade ago, and it's just as glaring to me it is today. So there's a second component to being prepared that was bothersome to me, and it's how being prepared makes you feel when you're a clinician, regardless of your specialty in healthcare. There's a old wives' tale that just because you've taken a course, a million years ago, that prepares you to save someone's life. And truly, it's really hands-on practice is the only thing that makes or breaks your personal response. And then how that makes you feel when you leave that day, where you work. And anyway, the bottom line is I was feeling a lot of discomfort, a lot of fear, and a lot of uncertainty in my colleagues, and it just was unacceptable. So I created Code Prep. What are we going to do? This is not rocket science. What can we do to make this easier to build the confidence and competence of anyone who's going to encounter a patient? And frankly, it doesn't really matter. It could be in your living room as well as in CT or MRI or in the unit. So cardiac arrest doesn't care where you are.
Exactly, because we cannot predict the moment when something happened to us. And sometimes I think in medicine, we can always say, hey, we're really good at treating people. However, is that preventative side or that critical moment, things that are so unpredicted, thing happened. What do you do about it? Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right knowledge to actually understand how to do CPR? Do you not get freaking out? I even remember a few years back, I had a lot of people at my house for New Year Eve. And one of these girls, we're just sitting on the bar top and she just tipped over. And we're like, oh my gosh, right? Like, it's like, she didn't seem like she drank that much. What's going on? And then I'm the only person who's medical. So then I go through my steps of ABC while everybody else is just standing around and looking down on her. So you're thinking about the majority of the population, both from the clinician standpoint, right? Therapists, nurses, doctors, PAs, all that, as well as the common people who every day they could see someone fall over, whether it's a heart attack, stroke, or whatever that is, right? Do we have the ability to actually be able to save someone, even just lend a hand? And then for you is you're able to help them to create those training. So for you, this journey has been taking you a few years and you're bootstrapping the company, which is very courageous and brave for doing this. So what made you to believe that this is definitely the true passion and the true mission you need to be and to keep helping you moving forward?
Yeah, so I couldn't stop. I kept thinking code prep would just go to sleep and leave me alone, but it wouldn't. And they would ask me, and then they would ask me, and then they would ask me. And the next thing I knew, and this was pre-pandemic, of course, I was asked to speak. I was asked to speak at respiratory symposium, and the respiratory teams were like, oh my gosh, we've got to have this. And there was multiple, I'm in South Florida, there was multiple healthcare systems that said, oh, well, we want it and we want it. We need that. Oh my gosh, we need that. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, give me just a second. Give me just a second. I'll be right back. And instead of doing it, it was so scary to me, doing it, meaning becoming an entrepreneur, deciding to figure out how to run a business, deciding how to figure out how to package and scale, commercialize, package and scale something that I just know how to do. So I just instead went back to school. So I created this in my master's and then I perfected it in my doctorate. So I really wanted a systems implementation in my doctorate. And that, people think I'm crazy, but that was easier to me following my rubric, than going into the entrepreneurial space because I tried and it was so huge and it was so scary. I didn't know where to go next. It was way too much. And so therefore I just kept giving it. I've been giving it for a decade. They call me, they're like, how do you do it? I said, well, they call me and then I go there and I do it. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, it means they call me and I go there and I train them. So I've trained hundreds and thousands of teams, whole departments. And I've done that for years and I've done it with pleasure and joy. And when I'm there doing it, it feels so good because it's not rocket science. It's giving people the opportunity with less is more. Quit worrying about all those fancy algorithms. Quit worrying about the critical care people who are all that in a bag of chips. No, this is just me and you, human to human. This is what we're going to do with your team and your equipment and your environment. I break it down to just the super, super basics and they stand taller. I mean, it doesn't take long. So that's why I keep going, but I just can't keep up. So I've had to figure it out. And that's where I am. I'm in the figure it out stage. I have my why. My why is easy. And I have my what. I'm now into that how, trying to find my who's to help me with the how.
Yes. And in entrepreneurship, it seems like that way, right? We have amazing solution and you also got validations on people need this, people asking you to come back to train. Then it's about how do you become a true business model that can scale, that can grow bigger, that can grow larger, not just rely on you personally have to fly, drive, and go to all these locations. And that means limiting the amount of impact you can really create. And how do we get this out to everyone simultaneously to truly create that powerful result of life-saving event? And
yeah. And in addition to that, because that's exactly what my situation is. But my training is novel. It doesn't exist now. There are some everyone does their not everyone I should say. In many areas of healthcare, you'll see small little blips of mock code training. The critical care team will do mock code. Some of them do more regular. They'll do it quarterly. But nobody is commercialized, packaged, and sold what I'm doing. So I don't even have a precedent. I mean, my only competition right now are the big dogs, American Heart, Red Cross, and then the research people who put together the evidence that I use is the same as theirs. So it's really starting from scratch.
Right. And you coming out as a unicorn, you have something that you see the result, other people see the result. Yes, there are bigger competitors out there, but at the end of the day, almost everything has some degree of competitor, right? Because that value proposition of what can we do to bring out the result. And then at the end of the day, the result part, and sometimes it's depending on how we say it, the process might be different, but at the end of the day, people care about the actual result. They care less about the how to get there, right? And then perhaps the benefit for you is you're cutting down time. Perhaps it's a better team environment, better, easier way to train people instead of the 2-day ACLS, right? Whatever that your unique ability. And sometimes we forget those are the things we need to repeatedly share with other people, share with more people, get more buy-ins. And you're in the face of, I know my what, your product, you know your why, you see the potential, you see the drive, you see the validation. Now is how do you make these things actually work, right? And I believe you also are someone who's super active about seeking care, seeking the right resources. You've gone to your nurses entrepreneur different associations, you're tapping into a big group that like the two of us met at Vibe, and you guys are going to house as well, right? Excited to see you in person again. So all these groups, but what's truly lacking in your journey? You feel like, how come even despite all these organizations out there, you haven't get to the right resources?
You know what? That's a gazillion-dollar question. I have to agree because I consider myself a fairly sharp tool and I can do some research and look and find, but here I am. You have your personal leadership to blame at the first, to get started. So you have your self-awareness times self-management equals personal leadership. So if either of those are missing, your entrepreneurial journey is going to be waylaid. So getting right with who you are and what you're willing to do to make something like this happen, I think starts there. So that's a journey in itself. So, okay, let's say check, that's off. Now we're ready, Freddie. Where's my rubric? This is the question I always ask. Where's my rubric? I'm a healthcare business. So the lawyers that you need, they all don't do very few of them know what I'm talking about because this is an in-health care novel program. And so no one understands. And then, I've been through various nursing groups and they're all at different levels and not quite sure what I have. I mean, I don't have a gadget. I don't have a gadget. I have a training. So where do I fit? Anyway, so what do I need? The rubric. That's why school was easier. Check. Do this. And then boom, off you go. And that's not what entrepreneurial life and our journey is like. Although I think it could be. I keep asking, maybe you guys will give me the rubric. I need the rubric.
Yeah, it seems like in healthcare, we like structure. We have different years of training, and these years training have these different subjects, right? And then even when we're working with patient, it's very simple, right? Like, what's your concern? From that concern, then we say, okay, what's our hypothesis of the differentiating diagnosis we think could be? And then from there, we're going to order testings, labs, and whatnot to confirm our hypothesis. And then from all that helps us derive to this one diagnosis. And the diagnosis has a option 1, 2, 3, right? The best option to treat. So in some way, we love to have some kind of structure like that, right? And in business, it's not that simple. However, there is a structure, as you're saying, right? So the structure really from start, I would say, number one is you already did it, right? What's the product and why people needed to buy from you? And you're so unique that nobody else can. Right. And then that's really about marketing, branding, and in the core, what's the language, the personality? How do you say things? What's the feeling that you give to people? And what's that guideline? Right. And that put it into what we called a marketing brand guide. Not so much as the people that run ads and they're just like, oh, it's just like something super short. Well, like healthcare was things in general is not that short, right? It's a relationship. So it's actually, we needed to do some nitty gritty of background research for it. And seems like you have done some of that because you've gone to hospital, you talked to a bunch of people, right? That's your step one. So how do you feel about where you are in that step one phase?
Well, that part's easy. I mean, I could do this all day long. I could, talk, get my brand out, talk about it. The problem for me is that's where a lot of people start, just like you just did. But once you start opening the floodgates with your brand and who you are and what you have, you got to have a place to send them so that they can get what it is you have. Now, mine scales instantly. So I don't bring on 10 people. I bring on thousands. So one unit is approximately 100 nurses. So if it's nursing alone, I get just one unit. Each hospital has approximately 20 units. One system has 5 or 25 hospitals. So if they take on my product, I've got to be able to scale instantly. So where are you sending them with that marketing and branding? So then you're like, okay, I got to send them somewhere. There's got to be a call to action. Okay, so then they go to your website. Well, so figuring out that part. So I kind of have to reverse engineer that. So I've been working on my branding and getting my knowledge out there, but I don't usually have a call to action because I'm scared to call them to action because I'm still a solopreneur. And if they come, I need to be able to take care of them, and I don't want to crash and burn in my first few seconds. So, and it will, because it'll be too big. So that's a big thing for me. It's a good problem to have, but that's where my health and my vibe and technology and AI and adaptive learning and cloud-based storage and cloud-based learning and turning this into an app. I've got a white label app. I've got a lot of technology wrapped around me. It's just a matter of having the appropriate advice and mentoring on any kind of case studies in my kind of sort of area that can kind of sort of guide me as to how to open the door. So the good news is I'm opening the door. My door, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been open, but it's only been on I do consulting, and then we do case by case. And then I, privately go in and do training, and I'm consulting. I do that now. But to open my doors so that I'm open, it's going to take a bigger punch. So I will be open before health.
Yes.
In my first mega attempt at what the heck am I doing?
Right.
In the mass.
Right.
In the mass scale. So
I mean, what I'm hearing is you know how to open doors, right? You know how to brand yourself. You know how to get that critical message out there for people to say, yes, I need this. Now, the critical part for you is creating that entire client journey so they feel supported. They feel like you have what's needed to support them. And once they become a client, what do they go, right? Once they say yes, hey, raise my hand, I need more information. What's the next part of piece that they'll build more trusting in you, in your system, I'll compete others. And then once they get to that event, become a client, they feel like, oh my God, you're giving me so much more than even you promised. And after the event, they have that continuous relationship. And what does that mean? Is there email? Is there a campaign? Is there different activities that continuously bring them back to your sphere so you're not just a one-time deal and done with, right? There's still an environment, a community of support. So I feel like that's where your critical miss right now is to create that entire client journey and knowing what pieces that need to go to each spot. So then, as you were saying, when you go to a big event like health, then you can actually turn on the switch to say, come to me. I know how to support you. And I'm going to tag you as ABC, and all the supporting material go to you, and you know exactly what to do next, right? So I feel like that could be the biggest missing piece for you is that combination of now you prelim branding marketing is done, is that what's the client journey, what's the sales journey looks like, the conversion conversation looks like. And then once they become that, how are all your internal staff and system have this great operation to support all these people that truly need you?
Okay, you're hired and I'll take it. The answer is yes, 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 yes. Yes, I need it all. And then there's a little bit of a sticky wicket here as far as the training alone is one of the biggest gaps is because of the resuscitation giants and what they teach right now. And then again, there's missing links in various education pieces. Like right now, I'm doing a lot of work in radiology, and meaning what's missing in their education, their founding education, so that they're prepared when an emergency happens. But when you pull that all together, And again, you have to be ready, but I will not have a hands-on portion. So one of the biggest problems we have with what we have is that's missing now. And in the digital era and the speed and AI and adaptive learning and all that stuff. But now people take these life-saving courses in their jammies at home, and then they go and do their skills on a avatar in a closet. And it's only a very small portion of what the like compressions and airway only. So there's a stack this long of what's missing with that hands-on portion. So I have to figure that part out too without giving up my quality. So I know if I teach it, that's why I've been kind of quiet on that call to action, is if I go and teach it, I know they're going to get exactly what they need. And so everyone's happy. They get the values there. It's perfect. But when you scale, I obviously can't be everywhere. As much of it online is going to have to be online. And then how am I going to bridge that? Because I won't not have it. That's just key. If they do not have hands-on practice. So I'm teaching them how to teach them. That's kind of the big secret coming out. It's a co-prep coaching and train the trainers and all that stuff. So you got to start somewhere. It might not be perfect, but I'll be getting the feedback from some of my early adopters right now on how can we make it better.
Exactly, because that's another business model in itself, right? And then just how do you create a program to certify the right people, then become your champion, your ambassadors, that then go out to be on site to train these people. And instead of you have to be the only person. And that's one of the way to scale. But as you're saying, I totally agree with you. We all have to start somewhere. So if we say, we're going to give you an entire board advisor of 12 seats from every single critical domain of the business, right? Everyone's going to help you right now. What would be the major focus that you want them to pay attention to right now to help you?
So I think one of my, it's not a concern because again, I've been doing it forever. I mean, I can do it from PowerPoint, do my training from PowerPoints. I think right now it's commercial package scale. So scale, being able, where my customers, clients, folks are coming to work with me, that's a big deal. I'm opening a new platform right now in the process of it. It'll be ready in like a week. It'll be ready 1st of August. So I think the quality of my actual content, I would love to be better because honestly, if you're creating it today, we're already behind. You know what I mean? As far as if you're not using adaptive learning, if you're not using an AI model, if you're not using a large cloud type storage, which I'm not. So that's one thing, connecting with people in ed tech and looking at their solutions and also connecting with people in the ed tech space, in the simulation space, because there are ways for me to do some simulation training. Again, I won't give up on the real environment stuff, but I would be able to elevate my offer if I had some simulated in there too. So I think my next step is when I get proof of doors open. I have proof of concept in hundreds and thousands of places in many institutions and many different types of specialty areas. That's not a problem. It works every single time. I have no problem with that. It's managing the load, and I want the quality of my product to be better. It's all I can afford and put together now. But if I were to have that, so ed tech would be a place where I would need some mentoring, and certainly this is going to be a national. It already is. I'm doing it nationally. I'm just trying to figure out, like you said, I'm going everywhere, which right now I'm enjoying because it's early. But how do I break up the country appropriately in its regions, and what are business models for large scale healthcare, train the trainer? So I'm not sure who to ask about that. And then to your point, setting up operations, standard operating procedures from the sales and, the start to finish on that client journey. I have nothing. I mean, I've studied and I've read, but I'm going to need specialty help there. So I'm kind of there. I'm like sales package, standard operations, making sure that my product is as good as it can be and having the ability to get there quicker and then getting it out there. And just really getting it out there. So after that, with that set, then how much fun can we have with, webinars and more speaking and TEDx, watch for me, I'll be TEDxing too. So then it'll be fun. I just need it set up. It's good. It's ready to go. It just needs an appropriate setup for scale.
Yes. And then that's what we believe in, right? And then it could be really fun to do a lot of speaking engagement, apply to TED, and speaking to many great people to be like, yes, I need this, right? But at the end of the day, it's do we have the foundation that's there so then we can keep everyone that comes through your path continue to champion you and not just get the initial excitement and they didn't get what they thought they got and they end up leaving, right? And then we wanted to keep people in our sphere, in your community that will, no matter what, wherever they go, right? They can switch to different systems, hospitals and whatnot. They still say, this is the best training I had. This is the best workshop. This is the best knowledge. And then they will be able to share everywhere. So start from the foundation definitely is true. And I think all of us in some degree always gonna to Dell, do I have the best solution, right? Like, are people really seeing that? And then sometimes we just have to remove a little bit about that professionalist hat to say, clearly, you train many, many teams and they are raving about it. It's good. We needed to make sure the infrastructure is there to continue to support what's already good and then take time to improve. Right. And so I love it that you're so authentic and then to share those part of the true path. Right. And then as any startup, hearing about this, and especially women, like it's, sometimes we are by ourselves, right? Susan, you're founding member and then looking for the right support. It's a challenge. And yeah, when you have the right people with you, it becomes so easy. The conversation just flow and things become much easier. As we say, we believe in triad. When we have one person, sometimes we talk ourselves in and out of things, despite how good it is. When you have two people, sometimes it become a debate instead of oh, let's figuring this out, because we still could be standing at a different mountaintop talking about the same thing, but we're not really getting there, right? And then when we have three people, then it balances off to say one person can be listening to the two people and then giving feedback and vice versa. And then it become much stronger top level of team. And so we're always supporting the visionary, the promoter, and the operationer, right? And then to truly create the highest level of company leadership and then finding everybody else that are subsection domain, legal, financial, operation, tech, sales, marketing, visibility, customer journey, strategic partnership, human design for optimizing your team and hiring and making sure everything is gelled together with the core of who you are, with your purpose and vision. And so
I gotta interrupt because this list that you just listed, that, you know what, if you aren't passionate about what you're doing and if your why isn't solid, then you're out. Because you hear that list, I'm like, I do not have any of those things. I know about them all. I kind of read them. I've studied them. If you hear that from the beginning, it's no wonder there's only 3% going to women. Or I'm not gonna dig on women, but just anybody. You have to have some grit and tenacity and perseverance and be so strong in your why that you don't care about those steps, knowing that they're coming and you'll address. This is how I feel. I mean, I'll address them when they get here. But if I didn't even meet you, that list, I would be very intimidated, but I'm at a stage, I'm not intimidated, but how in the heck do you get all that? Jeez.
Right. And then that's why one of the solution post point we are bringing into the board is to say a company, when you guys start having revenue, having strive, it's exciting, right? You're making progress and making move. Then is, what do I do now? Like, how do I create the right infrastructure, the right team, and the right strategy to actually go forward and doesn't still feel like I'm fighting against everything, or I have 10,000 things I still have to do that I don't even know where to double down on the best effort, right? So for us, it's bringing in that 12% executive team to say, unlikely you're going to hire us individually as a full-time, but we're going to bring on as a fractional board to do diagnostic of all your infrastructure. So we can become the GPS in your car to tell you exactly what to do and not doing zigzagging. And so we can do a more of direct path. So then it's offloading. It's become more joyful. Everyone who's coming into your team, they're self-motivated without training them to be ABC or XYZ. And people don't burn out anymore, right? Just because we switch from the burned out state, the stress state of being a clinician to entrepreneur, that doesn't mean you don't burn out in entrepreneur. So we want to make sure everything is working in your best genius zone. People are supporting you the best way, and not so much you have to teach them every single way that to best support you. And so it's a cohesive system that we do. And I think we're proud of that. We're proud to be partnered up with the investors to look into their portfolio company. They're great at numbers, but we also great at the human capital, the social capital, the culture capital side of become the true driver to make sure all the strategy is moving forward together. So can't wait to talk to you more and to see how we can help your company and you. Really, we love our nurses, and then be able to stand up to make a name for you guys, for yourself, and also the profession, what the possibility of this profession can be, and just all the excitement. So as we wrap up, what would be the last thing you want people to know?
Well, I think coming together, it's all about relationships, Sabrina. I mean, just meeting you at Vive and having your support has been amazing. So there's nothing more that a new entrepreneur likes than anything that will accelerate them in any way, shape, or form. So being open to finding mentors, to finding those, what is the 10X book? 10X is easier than 2X is, it's not about who, it's not about how, it's about who. So I think it's all about relationships, and you definitely have to get out there and meet, and you've got to be on social like LinkedIn, and you have to go to these events and meet amazing people like Sabrina, who has this board of 12. I mean, I couldn't even imagine the joy of being in a room with that much support would do for me and any other entrepreneur at my level, above or below. So I think it's about relationships. And if you're going to do anything in the entrepreneurial space, you better get good at relationships and networking.
Yes, for sure, right? Because at the end of the day, we support the people behind the mission and not just the mission itself. And we can all come together because the mission, but it's still the people that we wanted to have a relationship with. So appreciate that we serendipitously met in a conference, and I definitely support people who do go to a conference. I have an episode on how do you best prepare for those conferences, and then we'll make sure to leave in the show note, as well as I interview a sales expert on how do you not lose these amazing leads, amazing conversation to follow up. So how do you make sure you engage with them and continue to have these conversations? Even if it's not the right time now, it can be later on as you're creating that community together. So,
really? So I need a copy of both of those to share with my nursing colleagues. Remember, there's 30 of us, either nurse founded or nurse run businesses coming to help. So we can use every little bit that you can offer. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yes, for sure. We'll share those information. And then for everybody who knows, September 14th, we are having my TED Talk in Buckhead Ave for the whole day event. And we're so excited to hear all 12 speakers, everyone bringing a different perspective. And there are 2 of us in healthcare presenting our idea. And for me, it's the 3% problem. Why? Women-owned innovation in healthcare is so hard. And we're going to break down some of these gatekeeper myths that I will be sharing in my talk. So once that got published into YouTube on TEDx, I'm happy to share with everyone. But until then, hope if anyone is in town in Atlanta for that, we would love to have you in person. Until next time, excited for seeing all of you guys and hear more success stories and how do you get to where you are. Feel free to apply to be one of our speakers. Go to theprovidersedge.com. Until next time, bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to Provider's Edge podcast. We hope you enjoy our latest episode and found the insights and tips helpful. We'd love to hear your feedback on the show and learn what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. So please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and let us know what you think. Your feedback is essential to help us improve the show and provide you with the content you need to take your healthcare business to the next level. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.